So I'd like to demonstrate how to do the hot air balloons project for our Photoshop review. And the things I would like to go over here is just discuss the rule of thirds and layer mask and changing the colors of the balloons. I'd also like to show you some little retouching on how to change the eye color and the lip color. Also, we're going to use the clone stamp over here for a little bit. Also, increase the size of the canvas on both sides. I want to show you how to use layer mask, doing some blending transitions from the solid white to the blue. And we're going to add a grungy texture to the typography here, and show you a little bit about typography, and we'll put a little grungy splack at the bottom of this. So when you're done, it should look something like this, and let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you'll want to open up is the clouds in Adobe Photoshop. The next thing you would want to open up is one of the hot air balloons. So let me get to that file here. Open that in Adobe Photoshop, and there's a few ways of selecting. You could use the polygon lasso tool and just go all the way around with perfection around here and select the balloon that way and make a layer mask, and obviously you can correct the layer mask. That's one of the selection tools you could use. To deselect, I'm going to just hit Command D or Control D if you're on a PC. We could also use this magic wand or quick selection tool. If I use the quick selection tool, I can just select around the balloon here, adjust the size of my brush with the right and left bracket, and select it like that. I can also try the magic wand tool and select it like this, and so I've selected the blue, and now if I hit the layer mask here, it actually masks out the balloon, so we can invert that by hitting Command or Control I. So we can do that like that. So I'm going to undo some of these things. And if you want to do multiple undos in Photoshop, you can obviously use the history palette over here, or you can just hold Command and Option Z, and that will do multiple undos. If you just do Command Z, it's only going to do one. I want to show you using the magic wand tool. So we're going to select the blue here, and I'm going to zoom in to look at our selection. So hopefully you see that it's not going into the balloon very much, and what we can do is go to Select, Modify, and Expand. And we're going to expand it. Let's try 2 pixels and see what that does. So now we expanded and we went into the balloon. We can scroll down to down here, and that should be just fine, I think. So now we'll make our layer mask. We'll click this one to make it, and we will invert it by hitting Command I, and we have inverted that selection. Now if you look on the edge here, what has happened is it's sharply cut into it because of the selection tool that we use. So the nice thing that we can do here in Photoshop is if you double click on the mask itself, you can feather that edge a little bit, and what it does is it blurs it just a smidgen. Well, you can blur it a bunch too if you want to, but what you want to do is just blur the edge just a little bit so it helps it blend into its new background. So now I'm going to hit Command 0 to zoom all the way out. I'm going to go to the Move tool, the black arrow tool, and I'm going to drag this to our clouds. And the one thing that I noticed here, that you can still see the rectangle from our selection, so all you need to do is go to the mask here, paint with the black brush and just paint on that rectangle, and you can get rid of that piece of layer mask that some reason didn't translate well. So we got something like that, and we'll scoot the balloon to this area here. I just noticed that you can still see some of the mask over here, so let's fix that. Make sure you're on the mask. And I'll set the balloon up here. So now we want to make a copy of this balloon, and if you hold Alt or Option, you can just use the Move tool, the black arrow tool, and make a duplicate of it. And let's resize it, so we'll hit Command or Control T, and then I'm going to hold Shift and Alt so I can scale from the middle. Make sure you hold Shift so that you can maintain its proportions. So we'll scale this one down. Then I want to show you how to color change this. So let's eyedropper on the red, and I'm going to go to Select and then Color Range, and I want to select this red, but some reason that is not doing exactly what I want here. So let me make sure I'm on the layer that I want. I have red selected, and let me try that again. Color range, strangely, it's not picking the color. Let's try swapping those just to see. Color range, and it for some reason is not working quite right. So I'm going to go ahead and just switch it to red. So I have this red selected, and I'm going to go to just this layer here, and then now I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Replace Color. So let's see if we can replace this color here. We want to select this red, and we can change the hue. Now the one thing that we talk about in color theory is you want to keep this an analogous color. So if you go too far over on the color wheel here, it starts looking fake. But if you keep it analogous, the color that it's close to here on the hue scale, basically this is just a big color wheel, and you might adjust its fuzziness factor. And I see what I'm doing wrong. We don't need a selection. I'm going to hit Command D or Control D for deselect. Just go to this layer and just go straight to Replace Color. There was no reason to make a selection for that. It's on a layer independent, and it has its own layer mask, so there's no reason to worry about making a selection for this one. Now you want to pick one of the mid-tones of the red, not too dark, not too light, and you can control how much it's going to change by the fuzziness factor, and then you use the hue scale to change the color. And make sure you keep it analogous. It'll be more realistic that way. So let's make this one purple. I'm going to go back to the Move tool here. I'm going to hold Option and click, and I'm going to scale this one down. And I'll put this one over here. I'm going to collapse my feathering tool here. Press Enter once you get the size that you want. I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Replace Color. Find a mid-tone of that red. Change the color to maybe an orange. Hit OK. Now I'm going to bring the crop tool open here. And right now it's set on a 11 by 14, so I'm going to change it so I can free form the size, and now I can see my rule of thirds grid. Hopefully you can see that. Then I'm going to open the rulers with Command R, and I'm just going to drag some guides out to show me where this little rule of thirds indication is. I'm using the crop tool to show me where the rule of thirds is. So now I'm going to get out of the crop tool. I'm just going to say don't crop. And then I'll just start putting balloons here using the rule of thirds. Something like that. I'm going to line this one up with this line here. I'm going to put this one right in the meat of the crosshairs. Maybe this one. I'll put the little basket here close to the crosshairs over here. And there we get, this one's pretty decently controlled or set up with the rule of thirds. Now this would be a good time to go ahead and save this. I'll save it. Make sure to use the naming convention. You want to put your period. Your name. And let's go, you can go ahead and call this HAB, hot air balloons. And save it right here into your hot air balloons folder. And we'll take a break, and that will be part 1, and I'll show you part 2 here shortly.